Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's May 27th, 2020, and I thought today I'd give you a bit of a garden update. Now, there isn't much planted in the gardens. Still, I've got quite a few trays of the seedlings, but I thought I'd go over where we're at this point. Typically, by this point, we've got just about all of the garden garden transplants into the permanent raised beds, and are working on other projects, and there will be other seedlings started and to replace other plants as well in the future. But I thought what I'd do is put the helmet cam on with the GoPro and let's just go on outside and have a look. So here we go. Okay, we're over here in the western garden plot. Previously, this last season, this was a strictly perennial bed. So we had elderberry plants and currants. We did lots of gooseberries. What else do we have? Pussy willows. A whole variety of different plants that we went ahead and propagated. And earlier this season, probably 2 weeks ago, we posted a video on doing the blueberry transplants. So as you can see, we have 3 permanent raised beds here of the blueberry plants. And they've been doing pretty well. We've lost a few of the plants, but I'm going to try stool layering some of the plants. And we'll just take a quick walk down couple of the rows here, and you get an idea of how the blueberry plants are doing thus far. Now, since building these a couple of weeks ago, you could see that there are some weed seeds starting to develop here, and that's one of the big things that we've got to deal with, is dealing with the weeds. So one of the things we're going to be doing, and in a minute we'll be going over to the central garden plot, one of the things we'll be doing is going ahead and using weed mats like we do in the central garden plot, which will eliminate our problems with weeds. We also, a while back, I went ahead and took our previously stool layered honeyberry plants, and so these are the honeyberry plants all along this row here, and they were really rough. They were in amongst a whole bunch of weeds in a different part of this bed, which I'll show you in a minute. And I'm pretty happy with what we've got so far. If we can get a good irrigation system in here, these might do okay. Thea also, along the fence line, planted some of the Scarlet Red Runner beans, our big beautiful beans, one of my favorite beans. So I'm pretty happy with the beds being established and our plan for doing weeding. I also am starting an irrigation, a drip irrigation system that I think will work out very, very well for watering these plants automatically, similar to our other beds. Now over in this area here, this is the area where the weeds just got completely out of control this last year. So you can see a lot of the weed seeds. If you let the weed go to seed, then you have big issues. And this is what happens. Now, I may come down and do some weeding in here using a tine weeder, a wire weeder, a stirrup hoe, those sorts of things. Here's a couple of volunteer elderberry plants in here as well. So I'm not certain if I will. It depends on how quickly I can get this bed set, because once I have the weed mat set down, we don't have to worry about these weed seeds, actually these weeds that have recently germinated to establish themselves. So in this row here we have red acer cabbage, but these here will propagate and all. So, and on this row we got some snowball cauliflower as well. So we've got cabbage and cauliflower over here, and again we'll be showing what we're going to be doing with the mats. here's the beginning of, I got a wasp buzzing me here, of our drip irrigation system, a water line coming in, an accessory water line as well, and a automatic watering system, and the main line coming out. And I'll put the drip tape off of this main line going off to each area. We did get, Thea did plant the Scarlet Red Runner beans all along this hoop system here. We still have to get the drip tape down. Each morning I'm spending a lot of time watering these beds by hand, which is a terrible waste. And same thing on this side of the hoop. I've done videos on these hoop trellises using cattle panels in the past, and again, you can see the weed seeds are popping up here, so we'll be putting matting right up in this area. You can tell where weeds actually went right to full seed and really heavy-duty weed seed germination here. Certainly there are a whole variety of ways of, especially if you live in a warmer climate or in an area where you have a longer season, you can come through and flame weed like we do here. You can use the stir pole, the wire weeder, a tine weeder. You can use any of those means to go ahead and knock down all of these weed seeds that develop. Or what you can do is water the bed, let the weed seeds start to come up, give them a good couple of weeks of watering the bed to get the seeds to germinate, and then throw a black tarp or a clear plastic over it. And either clear plastic does solarization, which will burn out the plants themselves, or a black tarp will go excuse me, will do occultation, and that'll kill the weeds that have germinated. And then you can go back, pull the tarp off or pull the plastic off, and then go ahead and plant at that point. There's one other set of seeds that Thea came through, and I see this morning they're just starting to pop up now. So here's one here, and I may have damaged them yesterday, but we'll see. These are lupine right here, these small seeds. So I had Thea put a row in here, and I had come through with a flame weeder because it does fit in some of this area. And again, here are the lupine just starting to come up. And had I known that they were going to come up so quickly, I wouldn't have flame weeded yesterday. So this would be an area that's challenging to use a weed mat, but we'll see what we can do. So let's go over. So that's the western garden area. I will update you on what we're going to put in down there in the other area next to the cattle panel hoop there. So let's go over. So looks a little bit different now, but been working on this whole area this week. This is the way, and of course if the weed mats were all down correctly like this. So we actually put the weed mats on the paths as well as on the beds and just do a single row of plants. So like I'm planning on putting corn down this row, and the mats will be put back up. The comfrey's coming up against the building now. It was all yellow because it was covered by the tarp. And the first thing I had to do was remove all of the posts so that we could get the tarps off, which is a real big hassle, but they're stowed away. And then I've got to pick up all of the wire staples, because when the winds hit this area, even though we put the wire staples pretty darn close together, it can rip up these weed mats until the plants are really established and all. So I did a fair amount of cleaning in here, lots of weeding Over here where the carrots were, you could see after I got done harvesting them this season, I left mounds of dirt here because the snow was getting ready to fly. So I've got to get these beds all set and get them ready. But we're getting really, really close now. We've had some super hot days, but you know, here's a dock I pulled out yesterday. You know, these plants are just really challenging, and they often grow right at the base of the T-posts. So, and down at this end, quackgrass over the last couple of years had actually gotten established. So I had to use Bumblebee, the mini excavator, to go ahead and dig out, pull back these weed mats, because the quackgrass was working its way up underneath it and working their way into the beds. So I dug out this whole area here with a mini excavator and got down and got all of the runners, the subsurface runners for the quackgrass out. I think I got them all out. And then fortunately, Bud came by yesterday and dropped off a small load of wood chips, so I was able to fill the area back in. And so the next phase in here is going ahead, straightening out the mats, getting the beds prepped, getting the drip line system established, then re-establishing a fencing system around the beds here as well. This area over here was not, we did not use the weed mats last year. It was a very productive system. You can see we planted more than you know, a single row in the beds. We planted doubles. I think I'm going to go to just single rows with the exception of maybe the leeks. But Thea pulled the staples out of these, and of course it took a day just to clean up all the debris. And here's an example of when I let some weeds actually go to seed, and you could see the spots. It almost looks like a golf course, you know, with all of the weeds here. And so we'll be eliminating this by using weed mats in this area. Now along this hoop tunnel, this is a longer but smaller hoop tunnel. We earlier in the season we put Thea came in and brought the lettuce and the spinach over into this area, and this last week she went ahead and planted the Scarlet Red Runner beans interplanted here. So here's one here. You could see them just coming up, getting a few bug bites on them. And here's some of the quackgrass when that goes to seed. Real pain in the butt this is. And I did go ahead and pulled out all of the dock. So after getting all the T-posts out of this area here, I came through and pulled out all the dock and all the dandelion. Flame weeded the area. Similar thing, flame weeded down the center of this, but each one of the weed seeds come up and they germinate at different times. So I'll come through and flame weed this a couple of times as well. Let's go over here, and this is all the eastern garden plot we're in now. So these beds I haven't done anything with. The rain gutter garden haven't done anything with. Here we decided instead of putting our squash in here because they can really take up a lot of space, decided to put kidney beans in this bed. Over here, this hoop tunnel, we decided not to have beds in the central part of this hoop tunnel here. We put down cardboard and tarped it, and Thea put cucumbers on this side of this hoop tunnel, and I think butternut squash on this side. And inside I have quite a few watermelons and various squash plants, all in 2-inch pots, so we can replace them if we have some bad luck with them. And I can't remember what she planted over here. This bed I ended up flame weeding twice. Again, if the season were a little bit longer, I would have flame weeded this 4 times, because I still will have many of the white clover and red clover that'll pop up. There'll probably be a couple of dock or whatever, but these are the seedling red onions all along those first 2 rows. And these are the little bulbs. I cut back the tops. Thea put these in the day before yesterday. Pretty big project. There's still one more drip tape that can go down in this bed, and I don't know that I will put anything, but that would be for small herbs, could be radishes, beets, those sorts of plants. But I want to get these, we wanted to get the onions in right off the bat. The strawberry beds, these handicap beds, the rumble wall block beds, these are in now. I'm hand watering all of these things for right now, but the goal is so that we can actually get these beds, get the drip irrigation all set as well. So that'll be a real pleasant ability for us to keep these beds maintained, so I'm not spending hours doing all that work. So pulled a lot of the weeds out of the iris beds over here. The rosemary is starting to come back over there. Hank, stay. And I think we'll go over and look at the asparagus bed. Now the asparagus bed, I went ahead and posted a video on this. I flail mowed the bed initially because the weeds were very mature weeds over here, established for a couple of years, and we've been eating the asparagus. So we cut the asparagus back. So here's one of the asparagus right here. And so what weeds did we have here? We have pokeweed, we have horsetail, dock, burdock, what else in here? And so you could see, even though I have flame weeded this twice, you could see that there's lots of weed seeds that are germinating now. So it's really important for me to realize that, okay, these are at a good size here. Tomorrow things will probably be a little bit calmer, but I don't want to wait too long. This could wait until Saturday potentially. So today is Wednesday, so I'd come out and harvest the asparagus, get as much of it out as possible. So here's a bit of pokeweed right here sticking up. So I got to dig down and see if I can get more of that tuber out, that big root that's down in there. Here's some more quackgrass that I've got to deal with. This is one that it got a little bit too warm, this asparagus right there. So that's one of the risks when you're doing this work, that you can damage some of the asparagus that are coming up, but typically they do pretty darn well. But here's a red clover right there. Quackgrass all in here. Lots of weed seeds coming up, so I'm going to have to do some more harvesting of the asparagus, do another run by with a flame weeder, and of course you saw we've got the asparagus seedlings inside started this season, and we'll just do this a few times until we get it all under control. Yeah, more pokeweed. So I gotta get, these have those big, 3-4 inch in diameter root systems that when they hit a rock they'll bifurcate and bifurcate again. So there's some work to be done over here, but I'm really happy with how well this system is working. And when we just have these really small seedlings coming up where they're just the cotyledon, meaning those first two generic leaves that they send out, and we get their first and second set of their leaf of their I don't know, their secondary leaves. Excuse me. The flame weeder works extremely well. If the plants have been established for a while and been around a couple of seasons, like the clover, they'll keep coming back. So if I didn't want to do a lot of damage to the clover, I could just put a rock over that clover when I run the flame weeder over it. But things like this pokeweed, this will keep coming back all season because, or I got to dig down and see if I can get as much of that root structure out of there as possible. So I'm real happy with using the flame weeder in this with this technique, which is not like we would typically do. In the first case, we came through and we used a flail mower, cutting everything down to probably a ½ inch to 1 inch tall. Here's some of the burdock that's off to the side. There's dockweed there, but this is in the lawn, and that isn't a big issue. We'll take a look at one more area there. So in this first bed, you can see there's quite a bit of clover in there, and let's go around here, see if you can get in here. And you can see some of the walnuts that the squirrels had gotten into. But I believe we've got some of the persimmons starting to emerge from this first bed. The second bed is where the older seeds that I had kept for a few years of the black locust seeds. So I mixed up their seed pods. Over here are all the oak trees that are starting to come up, so they're doing pretty well. One of the and these persimmon trees have a really long taproot as well. So when I dug up some of the persimmons trees, the 1 year sapling trees, I damaged some of the roots. Excuse me. So in these buckets are some almond trees, and that's what looks like weeds growing up in here besides the clover. But in the one bucket here on the right side of the screen in the center are some persimmons first year growth that I dug up last fall, and these were damaged, so a lot of the root structure of these long taprooted trees got damaged, and I decided to put them in a bucket with some compost, wood chips and all, and see do they start to come back. So it looks like one is starting to come back, so that could end up being a nice viable tree as well. Okay, so over here in the work area, I think it's only going to be about 87 degrees Fahrenheit today, but yesterday it got well over 90, and it did a little bit of damage to some of the plants and all, but I just thought I'd show you. So down here we've got some of the these are banana peppers, my favorite sweet pepper. These are some of the bell peppers. Yep, bell peppers here. These are some of the jalapeno peppers down here, and and some chili peppers in this area. Some more of the cauliflower, basil. These are black beauty. No, these are the Oriental eggplant. These are some of the black beauty eggplant, more Acer red cabbage, some of our what is that, the curly kale, and some of our leeks. I had these out 2 days in a row, and they got burnt a little bit, so I'm trying to be a little more careful with these, all of our leeks down in here. A couple of these are some of the bell peppers. These ones got a little too much heat yesterday. These banana peppers did as well. The thyme, it's doing okay. Down here, the dill is looking pretty good. It got a little too much sun yesterday and too much heat. One of the problems when we have these black trays outside, they really absorb a lot of heat, and so the root structure in these smaller cells gets more profoundly affected. So bigger cells, when they're outside in these extremely hot sunny days, I think is a little bit safer for the plants. So red cabbage, broccoli, sage, and some more thyme. And in here it's just a jungle. The figs, the citrus trees, the asparagus down below, some of the hardwood cuttings. They got a little bit too much water, unfortunately. And the figs around in here, well, it's getting much higher than the light. So I got to figure out how to get these guys outside and protect them some from the deer, and then see if we can put some of these for sale on Craigslist. And outside, I did decide to put some of the tomatoes outside for for a few hours today. These have been doing extremely well, and of course when they're in the 2-inch pots and they got a good cover like they have right now, they tend to do very well, and they shade out the black plastic. Sweet potatoes are doing pretty well so far. These are all the slips, and then because these are all in 2-inch cells, these are the different squashes and melons that we'll be planting around the property. And over here I decided, since the sweet potatoes love that heat and all, these will just get irradiated and start throwing up some more slips as well. So that's a walk around looking at the Western Garden plot, which is going to be a combination of perennials, you know, the blueberry plants, as well as the the cabbage and cauliflower and the scarlet red runner beans. The other perennial is the honeyberries over there, and we'll have some melons or squash over in that area as well. That larger area, not too far from the not too far from the hoop tunnel, and so I've got to get the drip irrigation over in there, get the weed mats set in there as well. The central garden, which already has a lot of the weed mat stuff done, I'm really happy I was able to get the tarps off of that, and the eastern garden plot. Big job, and then getting all the weeding done that we've done so far. I'm pretty happy with how well the strawberries are doing at this point, and I'm really glad the red onions have gotten in the ground as well. Yeah, we're pretty much far behind than where we usually are at this time of year, but the seedlings, even in their cells, as you could see in some of the video, actually look pretty good. I don't feel too bad about them. We'll get them in the ground. The hardening off process back and forth has worked out pretty well. There's been some damage to some of the plants, but not terrible. So there's a long ways to go. In this video, I just thought I'd share with you we're behind, yes, and we have a plan, but it's going slowly this season. I'm certainly not up to speed, and with this drastic change in the weather now, we see today is Wednesday, so it looks like this weekend we're going to be more normal temperatures. Instead of being in the upper 80s and 90s, we'll be into the 60s, which is a far cry from being in the 40s where we were a week and a half ago. So I'm not complaining. I like the real warm weather, but it's really drained me a lot. A little too much time outside and not staying as hydrated as I should have. But we're just moving slowly, unfortunately. The asparagus flail mowing and flame weeding, and then going out and seeing where the ones that really have those tenacious root structures that I've got to go out and dig out with a spade, I go back and do that, and as you can see, the weed seeds are going to germinate at different times. So you can flame weed it and the bed look perfect, but then 3-4 days later, boom, you can see a whole bunch of new weed seeds coming up. So it's one of those things that if you're not using weed mats or you're not keeping cultivation well, and by all means, always try to, even if you don't have time to do a good weeding in your garden, if you're seeing that the flowers are there, which means that the seeds will be coming next, go through and just chop off the tops of them, you know, with the flowers before they actually develop their seeds. Then you won't get those carpets of the weed seeds coming up like I'm dealing with. I'm pretty happy with the oak trees. You can see there's white oak and red oak coming up. I think the persimmons are going to be okay. We'll see how those almonds do. And you can see in the coop, the figs are just growing like crazy. So I've got to get those sorted out and hopefully get some of those for sale on Craigslist as well. Pretty ambitious, lots and lots of things to do, but I've got to take good care of my health. I may get on the lawnmower, which isn't very strenuous today. We'll see how things are, but we'll take things step by step. So that's our progress update. I hope you found it of value. If you have comments or questions, please leave them below. I always appreciate your feedback, and if you thought the video was value, give us a thumbs up. Consider sharing videos that we have if you think that they're of value. I know I can get a bit wordy at times, and I know that I can just have memory lapses and be pauses as well, so I'm sorry for that. I'm not at the top of my game at this point. So thanks so much for watching, folks, and have a super fantastic day, and stay safe. Bye-bye now.